All right, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting, the City of West Bend Plan Commission meeting for March 7th. Note that we do have a quorum with a few of us absent but excused. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a quick heads up for everybody, we're still having issues with our audio system, so if anybody from the Plan Commission is going to speak, please speak loud and clear, and anybody who's going to be addressing us at the podium, please do the same. I'll start off. We have approval of minutes, the Plan Commission regular meeting minutes from February 7th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Newman. Any questions on these? Hearing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On to development proposals and zoning amendments. We're going to take the next three items. I'll read them off one at a time, but we'll have a synopsis altogether. So the first one is ZA-23-001, a public hearing for a zoning amendment request to rezone approximately 0.14 acres of land located on the east side of Fond du Lac St and south of Barton Avenue from RS4 Single Family Residential District to B-1 Community Business District by State Bank of Newburg. The applicant is State Bank of Newburg, and the agent is Jonathan Warden of Parish Survey Engineering. And we have B, Certified Survey Map, number 1, CSM-23-001, one lot certified survey map to combine the existing lot and excess North Main Street right-of-way into one lot located at the southwest corner of North Main Street and Barton Avenue by State Bank of Newburg. The applicant is State Bank, and the agent is Jonathan again. And then site plans, number 1, SP-23-003, site plan for the construction of a new commercial building located at the southwest corner of North Main Street and Barton Avenue by State Bank of Newburg. The applicant is guess who? State Bank of Newburg. And the agent this time is Nathan Zawicki of Redmond Company. We'll start with a brief presentation by our Business and Development Planner, Jim Renke. Jim.
Good evening. Tonight I have the Newburg Bank proposal. The first part of this proposal is a rezoning of a portion of the property for approximately 0.14 acres. This request is to rezone the property from RS4, which is as it is currently right now, and is surrounded by the B1 zoning, and change that over to the B1 Community Business zoning district to accommodate the redevelopment of the area for State Bank of Newburg. The property is surrounded by two-family zoning, RD2 to the north, single-family RS4 to the west, various commercial districts of B1 General Business District, B4 General Business and Warehousing District, and also B3, which is Neighborhood Business District to the east. This rezoning is consistent with the 2020 comprehensive plan for the commercial use. Property owners within 200 feet were notified of the public hearing, and staff received no comments or inquiries regarding this. So staff would recommend approval of the rezoning from the RS4 to the B1. As also a part of the project, they are proposing a certified survey map. The purpose of this certified survey map is to combine the existing parcels that are out there. There are 4 existing parcels that need to be combined into one for the redevelopment of the property. As a part of this, the applicant is also requesting for consideration from the city to release some right-of-way for North Main Street. This right-of-way release would be at the far southeast corner of the development to help accommodate for the configurations of the retaining walls that are proposed for the development of this site. Again, staff would recommend approval of the CSM with the conditions that were listed in the staff memo. As for the site plan, State Bank of Newburg is looking to construct a 5,476 square foot commercial building at this corner. Again, the property is zoned B1 for the majority of it, with the pending rezoning of that small RS4 lot. The refuse areas or refuse containers for this development will actually be stored within the building, so no screened refuse area is actually proposed throughout on the site. Access to the development will be from one access point from Fond du Lac Street and the other one from Barton Avenue. The Barton Avenue location is located within 75 feet of the intersection and in accordance with the zoning code, the driveway would need to be moved to 100-foot separation from that intersection. There are some provisions in the code that the driveway locations could be modified, but prior to doing a modification, justification for the driveway alternate location would need to be provided as a request from the developer, and then the engineering department could consider that reduction upon the justification of that driveway use. A parking lot is being provided with 50 parking stalls and is adequate for this development for a bank. Sanitary sewer laterals will be obtained from Barton Avenue and from Fond du Lac Street. Stormwater management has been submitted to the engineering department and is under review. And the stormwater patterns have been generally designed to drain to the south and east and collected in storm sewer on site, and then that storm sewer ultimately connects to the city storm sewer system. Site lighting is provided throughout the site with 20-foot tall poles, and that conforms to the requirements of our zoning code for that. Adequate landscaping is also being provided throughout the site for the entire development. The architectural elevations do identify wall signs on the north and east sides of the wall. The sign locations are acceptable to staff. Details of the signs will need to be provided just to verify that they comply in size to the zoning code. The site plan also identifies a ground sign located by the intersection of Barton Avenue and North Main Street, and also one on the retaining wall. The size of the sign at Barton Avenue does comply with the zoning code along with the location. The sizes the size of the sign on the retaining wall will need to be submitted and will need to comply to the zoning code requirements for that. The architectural building elevations have been provided, and the building materials will consist of stone and brick veneers, a tiki brown colored cement siding, and an Epernay champagne metallic colored metal panels will be used as accenting.
Champagne?
Yes. Will be used as accenting throughout the building. Staff has no concerns with the architectural elevations proposed for this. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the listed conditions.
All right, thanks so much, Jim. We're going to start off with the zoning amendment, and I'll open up the public hearing. So if anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, feel free to come on up.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Fleischman and Model. All those in favor of ending the public hearing, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then I'll ask for a motion for approval of the zoning amendment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Newman and Starl. Any questions on that one? Hearing none. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Then we'll move on to the CSM. Do we have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Fleischman. Any questions on the CSM? Hearing none. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we'll move on to the site plan. I'm sorry, can I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Newman. Any questions on the site plan?
Just a quick, I think it's beautiful. I think it's good. Justice, you have the pulse of Barton. Is everybody cool with that?
Oh my God. Yeah, if this is the time to talk about that.
Go ahead.
Barton is stoked. The business community is stoked.
I was born in Barton, so
yeah,
I know
yeah.
about it. So,
Yeah, and we,
you're all cool.
absolutely, absolutely. I like to think we've been laying the groundwork.
Good.
We teed it up for you guys.
Absolutely. And other questions or comments?
I have a couple of comments.
Yes, Matt.
So, the traffic impact analysis was not submitted yet. They're still working on it. And so they are looking into the driveway location as well, I imagine. And as far as the right-of-way, I also submitted something back to the applicant. So they are looking into how to finalize the right-of-way vacation line. So
Anything
we'll
else?
just wait
Okay.
we're just waiting for information from them on that.
Okay. Sounds great. Anything else? Then all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And congrats to you guys. Thanks so much for investing here in the great city of West Bend and Barton. All right, we'll move on to our second site plan, which is SP-22-010, site plan reapplication for a change in site layout from the previously approved site plan for an automobile dealership east of 2665 West Washington Street by MWD West Bend II LLC. The applicant is them, and the agent is Professional Consultants with Chad Chemnitz representing. Jim?
Thank you. So back in August of 2022, the Plan Commission conditionally approved a site plan for approximately a 24,406 square foot Jeep Dodge automobile dealership. The developer has since revised his site plan and has reduced the building to 18,825 square feet. Along with the building modifications for that building size, the site plan has also been slightly modified in the parking and displays areas throughout the site. So the staff memo that I provided was pretty much the same as the previous approval that we had, with some minor changes to it. The site plan will need to be revised to incorporate the screened refuse area that was previously proposed for that development. The access itself has not changed, so there still is the same access from Valley Avenue and from Washington Street. But the traffic impact analysis will need to be revised and need to be re-reviewed based on the impacts of the new building size for the public improvements that are needed for Washington Street. The parking lot has been slightly modified, and there has been a loss of approximately 8 parking stalls. So the site now provides 83 standard stalls and 4 barrier-frees. This is still adequate for the development. Basically what they did is they reduced the parking lot in the back side of the building, took 2 rows of parking out of there for that, but also modified the sides and the front parking slightly, just for the displays. Sanitary, sewer, and water laterals will still remain in the same locations that were provided. The stormwater plan will need to be revised and resubmitted as an amendment to the engineering department for the change in size of the building and also the pavement areas. The 2 ground signs that were previously approved will remain, and the commission did grant an exception for that for the additional ground signs. The wall signs themselves also have remained the same and do still comply with the zoning requirements. Landscaping and lighting throughout the site have been slightly modified to accommodate the new locations of the pavement and the building, but are still adequate for the site. The architectural building elevations themselves have been revised. Originally, the black color panels that were provided along with the painted Ephesus brick have been revised to the light gray colored painted materials that were similar to the Rustero side. So that condition that was previously required to change that paint color has been modified and now does comply with the requirements of the zoning code. Staff would recommend approval of the site plan with the listed conditions that we had in the staff memo.
Thank you, Jim. And I'll open up for a motion to approve that site plan.
Motion to approve.
Got a second.
Thank you, Model and Starl. Any questions for Jim? Yes, sir.
Just a couple comments.
Yep.
So I had reviewed the traffic impact analysis for the bigger size building, and that was fine. So they will provide the revised number with the new sized building, but we don't anticipate any issue with the impact of traffic with this. And then the other thing is, for the public improvements in Washington Street, we were already on the same page with DOT and the applicant. I haven't reviewed the plans yet, but I will do that shortly, and As long as the plan reflect what we had discussed with DOT, then we shouldn't have a problem there either.
Sounds great. Anything else? Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And then we got one more site plan, SP-23-004, site plan for adding a right turn only exit driveway located at 2110 West Washington Street by Peter Schwabe. The applicant is Killian Management and the agent is Peter. Jim.
Thank you. So on February 1st of 2022, the Plan Commission conditionally approved the Tommy's Car Wash site. As a part of the approval, the site was using the existing shared driveway and access to Washington Street as proposed and submitted. The developer has submitted a revision to the site plan requesting a second right turn out only driveway onto Washington Street. Staff originally started the review of the proposal and stopped after finding an existing access restriction along Washington Street, restricting no additional access to the lot and also to the lot to the west. The restriction prohibited the approval of an additional driveway to West Washington Street. As part of the request, staff did let the applicant know that additional research would be needed to find out who actually placed the access restriction on the parcel, along with who has the right to modify or release that restriction, whether it was the city or DOT. The access restriction can only be released or modified by that agency that requested that the restriction to be placed. Staff also noted that during some of the research that we've done, that all of the lots along the north side of West Washington Street have the same access restriction, basically from the intersection of 18th Avenue west to where the car repair shop is. So all of them have the same access restriction of that one driveway location that we have as part of that frontage road. A traffic impact analysis has been submitted, but the analysis has not provided any justification for the need of the additional driveway or the impacts of the sites adjacent to it. Staff would recommend approval, or I should say would recommend deferral of action on the site plan until the additional information on the jurisdiction of the access restriction is determined and the determination and review of the site plan to full evaluation of the site plan and TIA to evaluate the needs and if the restriction is warranted to be lifted to add that additional driveway.
Thanks, Jim. Yep, I know. Sure. I know you were sitting there eagerly. You kept raising your hand. Thanks for being patient. Do you mind just announcing yourself and who you're affiliated with?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is J.J. Rolling, R-O-L-L-I-N-G. I'm affiliated with Von Briesen and Roper in Milwaukee. And I am here today on behalf of the landowner, that's SCKJR Express LLC / Killian Management. With me today are Steve Killian, Peter Schwabe, and John Biebritz. Steve Killian being of Killian Management, Peter Schwabe being contractor, and John Biebritz with TADDY, the organization that produced the TIA. Just briefly to address a point raised by a question of jurisdiction. We've looked into that on our end. We are aware that DOT originally may have said, well, we don't think we have any jurisdiction here, but then there was back and forth, and now they want maybe a couple weeks, 1 to 2 days, up to a couple weeks to look into it. We believe that here the proposal is pretty strong. I have Mr. Biebritz, who can just briefly comment on sort of the need here, but it provides one sort of minimal change here, which is one point of egress. That's a right out, not a right in, right out, but only a right out. Mr. Biebritz's prior conversations with our Bauman at DOT indicated that DOT did not have a problem with the location of that as against the interchange or anything like that. Sometimes they do, but not here. So we think it's a sort of a minimally hazardous exit, but it does allow for egress and allows for some removal of pressure which Mr. Beavers can speak to. Finally, Mr. Killian did have the opportunity to poll neighbors along that road as to their thoughts on, whether this would be a positive for that area, the Washington area. And I'll have him speak just briefly to what he did there and the reactions he received. As to the question of jurisdiction, again, we don't believe that DOT does have jurisdiction. It doesn't say anything on the CSM indicating DOT approval for there was only with the Plan Commission. So our position has been that it's a Plan Commission only. But to allow for DOT to sort of assure itself that it does not have jurisdiction, what we would propose is the Plan Commission tonight could continue approve with the contingencies that once DOT gets back, either saying they do not have jurisdiction, or if they do have jurisdiction, they do not mind removing the restriction. With that contingency, the approval would go through. So appreciate your time. Just briefly, if Mr. Beavers could touch on the need for this, and then Mr. Gillian just briefly touch on the other neighbors, I would appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you. Same thing if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Beavers traffic analysis design, completed the traffic study with the date of January 17th. Just go over real quick what we did out there. Did a series of traffic counts during peak hours, looked at a car wash at full capacity. How many cars per minute we're talking about, how many cars per hour. And the question is, would a right out be a benefit for the site? From an exiting standpoint, a right out would be beneficial, especially during the busy times for the car wash. And this situation, Highway 33 is a connecting highway, what typically means that the city has full jurisdiction for driveway authority and access. However, in this case, as JJ mentioned, there is no in the CSN saying that access restriction is there. The question is, who put it there? And apparently it was documented in the mid-80s, so DOT is looking into it deeply. I talked to the DOT yesterday about it. They do need a couple days to research it fully to find out who put it there, and then documentation as far as why it was there and what can be done to remove it. If it's a DOT issue or a city issue, that is yet to be determined. So any questions regarding traffic elements or impacts? Don't need to answer those questions.
I want to say something. Actually, I want to say a couple of things. Because you mentioned that you spoke with Art Bauman, and he said he has no problem with the driveway being there, and I spoke with him, and he's telling me the opposite.
Correct. Yeah.
And he sent me an email, so I have it in writing as well, saying that until Wednesday night, so I called him after I got the email from the attorney, and he had not spoken to anybody but me. You had not contacted him, the attorney, Killian, nobody. And he had the issue with the driveway that he had mentioned in the email that I forwarded to you. So you've seen his analysis, his comments, and his recommendation to not add the driveway. In addition, I did talk to him again on Monday, and that's when he sent me the email to confirm that he had not talked to anybody prior to your email that came after I talked to him on Thursday morning. So I just want to rectify this. I've been in touch with DOT. We have other concerns besides, obviously the restriction was put there for a good reason. There are things in the facility development manual that recommend this driveway should not be there. There's restriction with the proximity to US 45 ramp right there. It's only 900 feet, I believe, and it should be over 1,300. So we do have a lot of issues there. And in addition, like Jim was saying in his memo, we have not completed a review of the site plan itself, because we had stopped once we filed the restriction, and then just Thursday, we were told, well, we want to be on Plan Commission again. So now we don't have a technical review of the plan either. So I think it would be premature for the Plan Commission to make a decision to remove that restriction at this time when we have so many questions still pending. So based on that, I will make a motion to postpone the decision per Jim's memo. And then once we get more elements from DOT or from you, then at that point, we can consider the issue again.
Yeah, and just to clarify, you are correct, everything said, Matt. I contacted Art before we started the study, just to verify would DOT be involved with this or not. At that time, he did not look at CSM. So that was my first conversation with them. And my last conversation with him was just yesterday, basically saying, as you said, it did look at it in more detail because they discovered that it has access control in that area. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, just real quick, can I ask for a second to Max the motion? If anyone wants to make it? If not, you don't have to.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All right. You want to fill us in?
Yeah, we did try to do some research on this as well for the available city records. We found evidence of a 1983 certified survey map that was approved by the City Plan Commission. It was not subsequently recorded. Developer's choice probably. But that was the first evidence of the frontage road and the access restriction being required. In '83, the city did not have maintenance jurisdiction over that portion of 33. We didn't receive that until '86. The subsequent CSM in '86, I believe, Jim? Somewhere around there, 86, 88, also has that frontage road and the restrictions. The indications that the restrictions are on all of the properties along that block indicates that the frontage road and that coordinated access were established intentionally, and the restrictions in place in enforcement of that. So the fact that there's evidence of that restriction being in place before it was the city's jurisdiction on the thing leads me to believe that it was a request at least, if not a requirement by the DOT. Secondly, the city code requires that any development with direct access to the highway within a certain distance, a quarter mile, I believe, of the interchange, be designed in accordance with the design guidelines, the manual that the DOT has, and that also cites the FDM, as Max mentioned. So a brief look at that shows that there might be issues with this drive location relative to that design standard, and that's actually cited in our code.
Right.
So that's why we suggested the referral or deferral of the action on this, because we wanted to give a chance to be able to look at this.
Yeah, and then it's correct. The original proposal was a right in, right out, and we need a right in that's not valid application based on spacing.
Mm-hmm.
But a right out could be considered acceptable application.
Sure.
But again, it requires DOT review and approval as well.
Sure. And I will concur that since the CSM that actually was recorded that first had the restriction, it looks like this might be a plan commission jurisdiction. I'm not saying it isn't, but that goes to procedure. That doesn't go to the need for the restriction or not the need for the restriction. Also, we want to evaluate what the impact is on the adjoining properties. I agree with you. It helps your site. It doesn't necessarily help the other sites. So.
I'm sorry. Yep. Yep. I'll let you make a brief statement, then I'll let our group talk. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Peter Schwabe, I'm the property owner and developer of the car wash. I know many of you. So I just want to address a couple points. I did personally speak with each property owner, and they all are anxious to see this second driveway to relieve the pressure on the single driveway that all the businesses, meaning McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Ranch, now the car wash, and Buyers Club share. If you look across the street, there's about 5 businesses across the street. They each have their own driveway, and those are lower volume businesses than we are. So all the businesses there welcome the opportunity to take the pressure off of that existing driveway and add a second driveway. Just also want to explain the motivation behind this. As we got into the project, I was spending more and more time at the site, and I always kind of knew that all those retail businesses, the restaurants, during peak traffic hours, there'd be a backup, and
people would just be waiting to exit out on Highway 33, and I thought to myself, wow, once we get the car wash going here, and, you know, we expect days where we'll watch 1,000 cars, and the backup that's going to exist there started to alarm me, and that's where I had the idea. I just literally was standing out there one day, and I had the idea that, hey, if we put a second driveway here, it might help all of these businesses. So I started talking to the business owners, and everybody agreed. I didn't speak to anybody at Burger King until yesterday, and actually someone from Schwabe went and talked to them, and they walked in, and the representative from Schwabe just mentioned it, and the manager just said, thank you, we wanted something like this. So anyway, and the motivation behind trying to get this done quicker rather than waiting is that we're scheduled to open April 4th, and, you know, there's going to be a rush to, you know, try out a new business, and there's going to be a lot of congestion, and I want to avoid a potentially bad experience. So I guess, you know, I don't know if you can do this, but I'm asking for approval contingent upon satisfying that the DOT doesn't have a problem with this and doesn't have jurisdiction. And obviously, if there is a problem, then we can't do it. But based on what I'm told by the attorneys, they're very, very confident that it's not an issue with the DOT.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just start with my comments. I'm just looking at a map here, and I mean, I've been to Pizza Ranch probably more times than I'd want to admit. But it still blows my mind that there's only one driveway there for all those businesses. It really does. I mean, just because the DOT might say that it's the right thing doesn't mean that it necessarily is. So I have no problem, pushing the envelope for the reasons that you talked about, Steve. But that's just my personal opinion. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do our due diligence, though, too. So.
Sure. That's kind of blown my mind for a long time, too.
Yeah.
Watching how things function there, even the old car wash that was there, his little businesses they had, sitting there washing my truck out, watching the traffic come through. It's just ridiculous that there's only one there. Now, having said that, I know that there are certain rules that exist most rules exist for a reason, and I would like us to see what those are, but I also don't necessarily have a problem with pushing things through as long as we have our ducks in a row by the time we get there. So.
Mm-hmm. Down this way.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you, I drove through there today at 3 o'clock, and there was 25 cars or 20 cars backed up at 3 o'clock on that one exit, and people are backed out trying to get in and out. I mean, we got to do due diligence. I understand that. But I think another driveway would not hurt the situation at all. Because when I saw the back up there, it's like people are going in and out, and it's like, we got to check this out real closely. But I would say another driveway would be huge if it's legal.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm not opposed to the driveway. I'm not for the driveway. It sounds logical, like it might be a helpful thing. But until we have the advice of the people who need to advise us, I would need to wait before I voted for it.
Thanks.
I will add something. It's nice that everybody's going and seeing that there is a problem. And if there is a problem, then we need to address it. Now, is this the solution to the problem? I'm not convinced. Everybody's saying we need another driveway. Maybe that's true. But my question would be, do we need another driveway there? Or do we need another driveway elsewhere? Do we need another driveway that would be with more movements allowed? This driveway here is right out only, and it's all the way out almost at the end of the frontage road. So is that the best area to add another exit? Would there not be a better area somewhere else along this stretch? I think that's something that needs to be looked at. If we're seeing the problem, I don't think we should be focused on, this one is the solution without even looking at it and at anything else. So again, I think it's premature to lift the restriction. I think if there's a problem, there should be another study done to see if there's a better, appropriate location elsewhere on that stretch. And if there is, and we need to put another driveway there, then that would not be so close to the ramp to US 45 and things like that. That would be more within the requirement of the FDM, then potentially I'm open to that. But I would not want to rush into putting this driveway there and saying that's the solution to all the problems out there. Because that driveway is not in front of Burger King, not in front of Pizza Ranch, not in front of McDonald's. It's like way in the corner. So I still feel that we need to postpone our decision until we have more information.
So would that be just a basic traffic study? Is that something that we would need to instigate? You as a department would need to instigate? Or?
What kind of timeline are we talking about?
Yeah.
I do not know who
Cost,
would be instigating it. Obviously, we'll have to talk with staff and figure out who would need to instigate it, and then how long it would take. I'm not sure. Maybe John can tell us about that, because would you have to conduct other traffic counts, or would you be able to use some of the data you have? Have you looked at the intersection to the east?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. So
Yeah, just assume if DOT comes back and says, yes, we put the access restriction on, there is a DOT issue, then that right out is basically dead. However, we can look at other options along that area. We do have some data, but not all the data.
Sure.
So yes, we have to collect some additional data. We have most of it in-house that we can utilize for that evaluation, if that's the case.
Okay. So if that study was to happen, do you know how long would it take? A month to get it done, or
At most a month.
yeah? So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Max, could you explain what the hang-up would be with that exit and the ramp?
With the ramp right now, the rule is that any drive opening needs to be a quarter mile away from the ramp. So it's 1,300 some feet. And right now, the proposed driveway would be about 900. So it would be not compliant with that requirement. And that's one of the requirements. So that's why I was saying, if we need a second driveway along this stretch, and it can be placed in a location where it would be compliant with this requirement. Because right now we're looking at, putting this driveway there, but it doesn't comply with A, B, C. And I'm thinking if we put in a second driveway and we can make it at least compliant with A and B, but maybe not C because of whatever reason, but have something that would be safer. And that's why I made the motion to postpone the decision until we have all these elements to make an informed decision in the end.
So Steve, you said you're going to open April 4th, I believe, or whatever? So, again, if this gets pushed back a month for you, what does that do to your business? I mean, in a month from now, they might say, it's good to go for a second driveway, because what would that affect?
So, obviously, with it being new, it's going to be we expect it to be very busy. We're going to be doing a lot of promoting. Our plan was to open, and I'll let the cat out of the bag. We were going to offer free car washes for the first 3 days that we're open. We expect a lot of cars to be there. I understand Max's concern. I feel that we were on a path to get this approved where it currently is until the issue came up with the CSM. So this is the first time tonight that I'm hearing any pushback regarding the location of the driveway. The only thing I was aware of up until just now was that there was a CSM issue. I had never heard anything about a location issue. I think you can do a lot of studies to determine where it should be. I think if you do those studies, you're going to find out that where we're suggesting it should be. I happen to own 2 of the 5 businesses that are there, meaning the McDonald's and now the car wash, which are the highest traffic generators of all those businesses there. And I can tell you that I know from standing there, that's the right place. I mean, I truly believe if you did a study it'll take a month or two, and you'd end up at the same point that we're at right now, which is where we were 3 weeks ago. So, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, what's motivating us to want to do this and why we want to do it, in the timeframe that we're talking about. So, I hope I'm making some sense.
No, you are. I think,
Yeah.
it's going to be great for business, okay? It's going to be a home run, just so you know.
I hope so. We've got, I can't even tell you, how much we've spent more than we intended to. But, we're excited about it.
It looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah, it looks
does.
really good.
It's cool. It's really cool.
And I think the last thing the planning commission wants to do is discourage any kind of business
I agree.
you're working on,
I second that motion.
Yeah. But, they do have to kind of do diligence, so.
In the past, we have had emergency meetings when needed. Could this be something that we table, give some time for everyone to do what they need to do? I mean, Jim and Mark need to do their job, Max needs to do his job, and then we could look at a meeting before April if everything can get moving.
I like your idea, Sarah.
Yep.
Fast forward it, hopefully. Again, you guys are busy as heck. I'm retired, so I don't. If we can push this through quicker, that helps you out.
Very much appreciated.
Can we approve it on contingency? That passes DOT approval?
The main issue is that if it is determined that it's the city's responsibility, just because the DOT doesn't have authority doesn't mean the analysis shouldn't still be done. So approving it, just saying that if the DOT doesn't care or doesn't have authority, ignores the issues that Max brought up on the thing. And I don't believe Plan Commission schedule. We certainly have offered special meetings. If the commission is willing to do it, we will look at that. But I don't believe that will be the constraint as much as the time for the study to be done, the extra information to be obtained, and for Max to be able to review it.
One more point, if I may. The study that you would do, I don't know what it would be based on, because you don't have the data that'll tell you what the impact of the new car wash is going to be. You only have what's been there in the past. And if we're generating up to 1,000 cars a day, and we fully expect to do that at times, that's got to be part of that equation. And logically speaking, if you make that assumption, it's going to tell you that the driver should be in there. That's all.
And
Thank you.
I would say that, I would respond to that by saying that actually, John, I had talked to Michael May, and he had mentioned about this type of car wash being probably not even following the ITE trip generation numbers and using higher numbers. So yes, a study probably should include that number, but again, you're telling me the study will give me one opinion, and right now I have your opinion, and I would like to have the study's opinion and base it on that and say, okay, we have some professionals who looked at it, they're doing traffic studies all the time, and they use the data, they can get the data. I think Michael May indicated that there are other sites down in Milwaukee or I don't remember, Waukesha somewhere. So there is the data to do the study, and I would really like to base our decision on a study done properly by professionals.
And I think that's the prudent thing to do, right, and the legal thing to do. So as much as I respect you and I understand your knowledge of business, and I'm so looking forward to the car wash, I can't tell you, I just can't say yes at this point.
Understood. So the question about having a special meeting, is that an option?
Sure. I mean, it's always an option. It all depends on how quickly you can get the information that you want to get.
Yeah, you could do that.
Any other thoughts?
I'm going, okay, I'm good, because business is great for West Bend. This is going to be, I love business, okay? And I got it with studies and everything. Hopefully, I'm just hoping, we could fast forward this. And I have no issues, and I'm sure most of you don't, to have in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and maybe it can't be done, I don't understand. But I would like to see a special meeting to help out a business community leader if we can, and I don't know if we can, so. And if the DOT and everybody else says, sorry, it's gonna take 2 months, well, that's what it is, but I would like to propose, if we could fast forward it and get it quicker than next month's meeting, if possible, if possible.
Max, how quick can you get something done?
Well, I'm not going to be the one doing the study.
But
I'm not going to be the one doing the study, but once it's done, we'll review it. And so the question is how fast can that study be done? And that's why I asked the question earlier to John, is like, how quickly can this be
I
done?
think we should try our best
And
to fast forward this, if we can,
I'm sorry, did you have a timeline? Is that what you were commenting?
Part of the staff function, obviously, is to run these some of the traffic counts, but other fixes up that we want to have. We've got a piece of car wash. We just need to work with Max to quantify what we're going to do with a car wash. In other words, do we assume that car wash is operating at full capacity, so that car wash is full, got no traffic generating, or we looking at more of an average day where it's maybe not operating at full capacity, more of a 50% capacity. We have traffic data from coast to coast and other sister car washes and other parts throughout the Milwaukee to use. It's just a question of what do we want to use for this and what's the best way to go down that path. So let's get clarification on that. It'll take us about 2.5 to 3 weeks to complete the study and submit the draft.
Sounds good.
That's fair.
Any other thoughts? All right.
Here we go.
We do have a motion on the floor to postpone, so I will call for a vote, which, do we need a vote for that? Or just, I guess we could. Sure. All
They
those in,
requested formal action, so.
yes, all those in favor of postponing then to maybe a special meeting, maybe the next meeting?
That's the part I want on there, if you
Okay.
don't mind. Okay?
Well, who made that motion? It was-
I did.
Okay.
I
Well,
made that motion.
If we can fast forward it, I don't want to postpone until
Yes.
next month or 2 months from now.
I don't have a problem if we have everything we need
Okay.
to get a meeting earlier than next meeting. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, I'm in then.
sounds good. That's in motion. Seconded. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, sounds like we've got a plan of action. Let's get to work.
Thank you.
Thanks for the business. again.
Thank you. All right, and last but not least, we have discussion and recommendation to set a public hearing for a change in the recommended land use from industrial to government and institutional in the 2020 comprehensive plan for the City of West Bend for lands located at 102 West Decorah Road by City of West Bend Department of Development. The agent and applicant are us. Jim.
Thank you. So development is requesting that the Plan Commission consider a land use change to the 2020 comprehensive plan for approximately 0.3 acres of land. This land is actually located east of the Holy Angels Cemetery. It's a landlocked piece of property that is located east of that. It's identified in our land use plan as industrial. It was an existing legacy industrial use, which is, in our opinion, not the best recommendation for that area anymore. So we are requesting a consideration to change to the government and institutional use to foster the redevelopment of that property. It would also be incorporated with the existing cemetery property for their use. The zoning in the area around this is M2 heavy industrial to the north, south, and east, and then also the institutional public service district to the west, which is the cemetery. The zoning out there just reflects the past uses that were there, and so we would ask for consideration to rezone that to the I-1 consistent with the cemetery. Staff has reviewed the surrounding uses and feels that the government institutional land use designation is compatible and is more appropriate for that area. If the commission finds the proposal to be acceptable, staff would ask that a public hearing be set for May 2nd at the 6 o'clock meeting for consideration. along with the consideration of the rezoning.
If I could add, this is a landlocked parcel. It couldn't redevelop as an industrial anyway, making it consistent with the cemetery use and the cemetery land use and zoning will allow them to combine it as a part of their parcel, so it'll be a conforming lot, or be part of a conforming lot at that time. And the loss is essentially, this never was industrial. It's basically a storage garage in fairly disrepair. So the loss of the structure is not really a loss.
Thank you. Look for a motion to set the public
Motion
hearing.
to set the public hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second? And motion seconded. Any questions? Who owns the property right now? I don't know if I missed that in the packet.
The church actually did
Oh, they do?
acquire the property, yeah.
Okay.
Before they moved forward with any other considerations, they wanted to make sure that the property was in their control.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Great. Anything else? And all those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And having no further business from the planning commission, I adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a great night.